Parliament's Tourism Portfolio Committee wanted yourself and some of the other appointees, Vincent Mtambo and Koleka Zama, out in yours and Zama's cases, citing conflict of interest. How do you plan to convince people you are the best bet for this turnaround?
Well, I think the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. I think the minister's logic is she was looking for a team that had experience, firstly, in tourism promotion, that had experience in governance, because one of the things that South African tourism needs is a board that can give the management the space that they need to promote the country. And then obviously, because there have been some issues, as you rightly say, over the last few weeks, we need some legal experience, some financial experience. And certainly if you look at Zweli Mtambo and Koleka Zama and I believe she's chosen a team that is obviously a small team, but has that experience and is able to bring that stability to South African tourism so they can do the job of promoting the country that all South Africans need them to do.
You know, it comes in the context, Tim, with the mass resignations that preceded your appointment. Before we even get to, you know, strategy and planning, how are you going to build morale and really get things moving?
I mean, can you think of a more fulfilling job to do than telling the world about the extraordinary destination that South Africa is? I mean, it's always been an ambition of mine to work in that space. I think all South Africans are really proud of the natural beauty of our country and it being one of the leading global tourist destinations. And we all get frustrated when there's reputational damage around the world, around South Africa. So I think South African tourism, it must be one of the most fulfilling places to work in the country. And the fact that it perhaps isn't right now is something that we need to fix. And hopefully it'll be relatively easy to fix, because if you can give the people that are at South African tourism and have been there for decades the support and the freedom to get out there and actually market the country in conjunction with the tourism industry that is world-class and that is also spending their time around the world selling the country. If we can align those efforts and say, how do we work as Team South Africa and get the message out around what South Africa offers to the rest of Africa and the world, that's an incredibly fulfilling thing to do. And it's a thing that really impacts the bottom line in South Africa quickly, creates lots of jobs, drives economic growth. And I think because of that, this is going to be hopefully something that people really feel passionate about when they're working at South African tourism, and they realize that they could partner with the private sector to do that job.
Tim, it's a compelling postcard view, but we all know, given the mass resignations, you know, it's a dream job up to a point, I suppose. Were they out of their minds to leave? I mean, you know, given, as you say, this is a dream, a plum assignment to really be ambassadors for the country and to get this economy really running, you know, people don't seem to be able to fulfill that mandate.
Well, I think it begins with leadership, right? I used to work with the tourism minister previously in one of her previous jobs, and she's got a real clear vision for what's possible in the tourism ministry, and because of her leadership as the figure that's personally very committed throughout her history to corruption-free government, but also recognizing that tourism is a huge growth and jobs driver for the country. She's obviously just come in and she's sent a very clear signal that she wants to make an impact in the short term. I think the board that she's appointed in Koleka and Zweli it can bring stability quickly. And then if we tap into the existing skills at SAT and particularly build that partnership approach with the private sector, I think that's the way you start to turn the ship. That's the way you start to get on top of the issues that you're flagging. Tomorrow we've got a briefing in Johannesburg by the management. Next week we'll be at Travel Indaba. And it's a real showpiece for the country. And I'm hoping that we come out from there with a clear plan on how to get the marketing of the country back on track.
All right, let's get closer to that plan as we close. The controversy around the now scrapped nearly 1 billion rand Tottenham Hotspur proposal obviously, understandably, consumed much of the public's attention, including the aftermath of that. So what do you see for now, from where you stand, as the most pressing problems that this board has to fix?
I think it's about bringing stability to the management, letting them know that we have their back as a board, that we're willing to give them the space to get the marketing of the country done that deal itself there were deep problems with it. There wasn't the ROI that we needed to see from our tourism marketing. And obviously, once you've spent the billion rand, you then need to spend more in order to leverage that brand position. So I think it's about going back to basics and saying, this is a team that knows how to market the country. If they can do it in conjunction with the private sector and boost their spend alongside private sector spend, that's the quickest way to get things back on track. I think what you can be looking for from this board is a real sense of partnership between SAT, the ministry, and the private sector. And I think that's what the South African tourism industry is looking for in order to unlock the jobs and growth that we know tourism can bring to South Africa.
Massive responsibility, and the South African public is waiting for results. It makes a serious contribution to GDP, so we'll wait to see what announcements come out from SAT over the next couple of weeks. Tim Harris, thank you very much for talking to us tonight. Appreciate your time.